In our last video, we configured RIPng on routers R1, R2, R3. Now in this video, we want to do verification. Let's give a series of verification commands. To begin with, let's just see what IP version 6 routes R3 knows about. We can do a show IPv6 route. And something to note is many of our show IP commands, like show IP interface brief, show IP interface, show IP route, we could just replace the IP with IPv6, and we've got a valid IPv6 verification command. Here we're taking a look not at the IP version 4 routes, but at the IP version 6 routes. And we can see that we've learned a couple of routes via RIP, as indicated with the R flag. If we wanted to see just the routes that were learned via RIP, we could say show IPv6 route RIP. And it's going to show us those two routes that we learned via RIP. And remember that the metric of RIP is hop count. We're saying that we've got a hop count of 2 to get to this network, and we've got a hop count of 3 to get to this network. And we see the administrative distance is 120, the believability of RIP. Remember, OSPF is 110 and EIGRP is 90. If I had a larger routing table and I wanted to see if I had a route to a specific prefix, I could give a command like this. I could say show IPv6 route, and I could give a prefix. I'll say 2000:1:/64. Do I have a route in my IPv6 routing table? Yes, I do. It's known via the FIRB routing process, and there's a metric of 3 to get to that network. And how do I get to that network? Well, my next hop is out of my serial 1/0 interface, and I'm going to go to my neighbor, which has this link local address. And something I find somewhat surprising is if I do a show IPv6 protocols command, I would expect to see lots of information about my RIP routing process. Maybe timer information. Is split horizon on? Is poison reverse enabled? But it's fairly basic. I can see what interfaces are participating in RIP, but it's not the amount of information that I would get from a show IP protocols command. Instead, if I want to look at information like timer information, I'll need to give a command like this. I can do a show IPv6 RIP. And this will tell me things like, what is my update timer? And it's at the default of 30 seconds. It's going to expire after 3 minutes. We're going to see that split horizon is on. Poison reverse is off. And again, we see what interfaces are participating in this RIP routing process. We could also do a show IPv6 RIP next-hops to see information about next hop routers that would get us to remote networks. In my case, here on R3, I've only got one next hop that will get me anywhere, and we see its link local address, and I'm going to go out of my serial 1/0 interface to go to that next hop.